everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we have been losing musical legends, musical greats, left and right. Tony Bennett passed not too long ago. And then this week, Sinead O'Connor.
You know, it's funny. Sinead, she didn't make big waves in the music world. People thought she was gonna. But she made one enormous wave. And we're
tsunami
gonna talk about,
of sorts.
Yes, exactly.
We're going to talk about the legacy of that act. For you younger folk or those who don't recall, she tore up a picture of the Pope on live television. And
doesn't that sound shocking?
Oh my God!
Is your mind blown?
Well,
are you horribly offended?
Well, 90s America was not ready for it at all.
No, nor was Joe Pesci, but we'll get to it.
All right. First, we have some news that we need to talk about, Dan.
Various news.
I'm just gonna this is an ongoing story about Quran built burning in Sweden, and I want to give credit where credit's due. I think Sweden has achieved the impossible. Yeah. They have brought together Jews and Muslims who have united at a rally this past week to denounce desecration of sacred texts. This was organized by the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, or CAM, and they held a virtual global Jewish-Muslim solidarity rally. And they brought together about 24 distinguished religious leaders and activists from around the world, from places like the United States, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Israel, United Arab Emirates, India, and Panama.
One couldn't not include Panama.
They
what with their oversized presence on the world stage.
It's an important canal.
Yeah, well, that's true.
It's very, very, very important. They got together to share messages of unity and mutual respect. Let's see, this is a quote. It says, over the past... this is actually... I wanted to quote this part of the article verbatim, because this was... There's some bias in this article.
What the hell you say?
Over the past several weeks, attitudes in Europe and in Sweden and Denmark in particular have challenged basic respect for the religious beliefs of other and common decency in general. It points out that Qurans and other Abrahamic texts have been burned and faced threats and quote, with the situation seeming to escalate by the day.
I wonder who's responsible for that.
I know. And literally thousands of viewers attended the rally. It's good. They got together. They're united in victimhood.
Well, what they've realized is that, like, wait, if they can burn their book, what's to stop them from burning our book? And ours is actually important, not unlike their stupid thing.
Yeah. This is from the CEO of CAM, Sasha Reutman-Dratwa. In his opening remarks, he said, "These despicable provocations, desecrating what we all hold sacred, are meant to incite hatred between us." Do you all hold sacred each other's books?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Right?
No, you don't. You big fat liar. Right. And also, I don't think you get to decide what they're trying to do when they do this. I think
it's meant to. Dan, they're inciting hatred between them. Between the groups.
Yeah, exactly. Me burning an ex-Muslim burning a Quran is meant to incite hatred between Muslims and Jews, that's obvious.
What I love, I mean, of course, I did not tune in to the rally, but I read the whole article about it.
Yeah.
And nowhere did the article acknowledge, right, the fact that, these events are taking place in Western societies that, where people, of their faiths are allowed to go and practice their religion, right, freely, right, and that those freedoms are essentially the same freedoms that allow these other people to do things that they find offensive, right?
Yeah,
it's all the same set of freedoms, and
exactly.
And they don't see that, and in fact, whenever, and we talked about it last week on the show, and it's been a recurring theme lately, that when it doesn't matter the conservative religious group, when they get in a majority, they get into power, and then they take away rights from others, right, because they don't see the value in the exact same rights that gave them freedom, right? They only care about their majority and their power.
They were waiting for themselves to have rights.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, they want to make sure that they get to consolidate that power just among themselves, and other people don't get to do anything.
Right. And in the meantime, they will scream and shout about respect and demanding for equal protection and equal rights.
Right. Which what they really want is entirely unequal.
Right. That's the goal, is unequal.
Right.
In the meantime, though, we'll take the equal.
Yeah.
That serves our purpose in the meantime. Yeah. So thank you, Sweden. You've united Jews and Muslims.
And we'll get back to this same concept only later in the show. Like, the whole Sinead O'Connor thing is the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to that, but from a 90s perspective later in the show. So I don't know if you read the news. This is not the story I'm talking about today, but Israel is now Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you caught what happened there, but the Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, just passed laws.
Why can't they just call it that? Right?
Parliament?
Never mind.
It's fine. Anyway, the Knesset has now sort of neutered their Supreme Court, and eliminated any checks and balances against them. That's terrible. It's not a democracy anymore. Congratulations, Israel.
Woo-hoo!
You are now Saudi Arabia. You're a theocracy, and that's awesome. I don't know how that's going to affect the story that I am going to be talking about, which is, and you and I have talked about this on the show before. Basically, because Orthodox Jews are the equivalent of the incredibly loud right-wing nutballs of the United States in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if they're in the minority. They scream and shout if anything goes in a way that they don't want. If for instance, Bud Light put a trans person on their can, which never actually happened. They just did one can. Anyway, the version of that in Israel is that the Orthodox Jewish community screams and shouts if anyone puts up a picture, a billboard, an advertisement with women on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know if you know this, but women are somehow nasty, dirty things that should only be seen if they're your wife, apparently. Otherwise, it's not modest to show women in doing things on advertising. So to combat this attitude, and big mainstream companies have caved and then rescinded their caving to this pressure. Groups like IKEA IKEA at one point, I think this is the story we reported on a few years back, was that IKEA had produced a different catalog for Israel that took the women out. And then there was a lot of pressure, and they put it back in.
Okay. Yeah, I think
so a small group has now, in order to combat this, has now started a photo bank of Jewish women and their families. Basically, it's they call it the Jewish Life Photo Bank. It is, it's what do you call those? Stock photos that you can for purchase,
right?
Of just people. You know what I mean? Like friends around a table, or a couple looking at a laptop, or like, you know, a kid celebrating a birthday or whatever.
This sounds controversial, Dan.
But it's got lady Jews in it. So like, oh no. Yeah.
Oh God. And is this causing a stir amongst the Orthodox Jews?
It's not, but like the use of the photos is the problem. So they're trying to encourage people to use these photos, and that will cause a stir. And frankly, there's a whole spate of new laws being introduced in the Knesset that will probably make it. They'll probably just outlaw women altogether. It's already a problematic state. Like, they used to be very proud of their democracy in Israel. And now, like, I know a person in Israel who recently had to go to Cyprus to get married.
Jesus.
Just a day trip, just there and back.
Right.
Because they didn't want to have to get permission from the Orthodox Jews. You know, there's like, you literally have to do a religious wedding. There. And it's just like, what the fuck, you guys? Whatever happened to your secular government? It's gone.
Yeah.
They're Saudi Arabia now, but Jewish.
Well, all right. Good for them. They got what they wanted.
Yeah, they did it.
Or at least a few people got what they wanted.
And make no mistake, this is exactly what the right wing of the United States wants. Only they want it to look
to be Christian.
Just one of the other Abrahamic religions.
Oh, good God. All right, Dan. Let's see. Well, this is a fun story.
Oh, I like a fun story
about people getting along, Dan.
Oh,
actually,
happens?
Not at all. In fact.
Oh, okay.
This is a story about a Unitarian Universalist church
They're famous for getting along.
They get along wonderfully, right? they are not the problem here. Down in Plano, Texas. That was the target of a firebomb attack. Where an incendiary device with a chemical accelerant was thrown or placed at the front doors of the main church building, which then caught fire. Nobody was injured, and the fire was spotted pretty quickly, apparently, and the fire department got out there and was able to extinguish it before engulfing the entire building. Okay. You know, crisis averted or disaster averted, whatever, for these Unitarian Universalists, which, okay, if you guys don't know who the UUs are, they are the most, or I guess I should say the least religious church that you could possibly ever come across. There is some nominal idea of a supreme being, maybe,
kind of.
It sort of comes from a Christian tradition, they're
the religion that forgot to religion.
And they just are open to everyone. Gays are welcome. Yeah. Atheists are welcome. They don't care, right? Yeah. It's just about community and doing a little, like don't they like light a candle or something? I don't know. They do something that's just like, oh, cool. You lit a candle and sang a song that had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Because you've taken religion out of everything. Anyway.
Yeah.
So these folks down in Texas were the target of hate. And the church itself is drawing a connection, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but it's NBC News picked it up and ran with it. The church, they posted on their Facebook page that they are, quote, reviewing building security and working with the Plano Police Department since the intrusion of a hate group in the church building during and after worship service on June 25th. That group had posted video of their activities inside the church on various social media sites.
Oh dear.
The video in question features 3 YouTubers, Bo Alford being one of them, as well as Cassidy Campbell, and then some third guy that isn't named, who, quote, pretended to be LGBTQ. That's their word, right? This is in their description. They went into pretending to be LGBTQ with the goal of testing the church's theology and exposing false teachers.
Oh my God.
The picture of these guys posing as 3 young gay men who nobody thought were actually gay. They just barged into this church with their camera, right? Doing their little YouTube shtick. And
was it during service?
I think they went in during service and then sort of engaged, or maybe more like confronted members in sort of the after church like hangout that they were probably doing.
Sure, during the coffee time afterwards.
Sure, yeah. And so their version of gay, one of them is trying to do maybe like pretty boy look a little bit, not very effectively. Another one is wearing a rainbow t-shirt, and the third one is, I don't think he didn't try to do a costume. So I'm terrified to know what he was doing to try to be gay. But looking at the photo, no informed person about gay people would go, yeah, these 3 are gay, right? Anyway, so the church is highly suspicious because this group was, they called the church pagan and satanic. This Bo fellow, Bo Alford, he goes by Bo Diddle on social media. He, they were very belittling of the Unitarian Universalists, and
shocking,
and now they've issued a statement saying that, our prayers go out to anyone, blah, blah, blah. But, so who knows who is responsible? Probably not the 3 YouTubers, right? They didn't go do this.
No,
but people who watch them,
right,
and who are influenced by the influencers, who knows? Yeah. But what's more important is that the Unitarian Universalists were the targets of an act of hate, right?
Yeah,
a threatening act, one that was meant to destroy their church, right?
Yeah, literally, like
no small act, right?
Yeah.
And again, if they, meaning all the religious people out there, if they all were like the Unitarian Universalists, I'd be like, fine, the whole world can be religious except me. I wouldn't care, right? Because they're so innocuous, they're so harmless, right? As a group,
and that's the harm that they do.
Well, yeah, they're not strident and gay hating. So,
wow. I just looked up because I wanted to see these YouTubers, and the photo with first of all, a boy named Cassidy. That's a thing. I don't know about that, but but he's doing a sort of limp wristy sort of thing in the shot, and it's just, and it looks more like he's doing like Tyrannosaurus arms or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Also, we like No one makes fun of gay people with the limp wrist thing anymore.
No.
That is like 1996. That is so over.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
It's upsetting that they don't know how to make fun of gay people in a modern context.
I know.
Why does that upset me? That your taunts are old.
Well, what would be an appropriate taunt now?
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I don't know. I mean, like, go to the gym and work out a lot, and then get big muscles, and then you're being gay.
Yeah, and
look how gay you're being with your big muscles.
I know. Yeah, and that's clearly all of us, Dan. So
no, I'm going for stereotypes here. That's the whole point. Obviously, you don't have big muscles, Frank.
No, I don't. I am not a gym gay.
You're not a gym gay.
Nope.
Yep. All right. Well, poor universalists, Unitarians. There you go. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a new poll that comes out. Now we do polls all the time.
We love them.
And here's the thing: I always have a problem with the polls.
What?
I have lots of problems with the polls. Oftentimes, the questions are worded in a way that will not come up with with solid answers. And the other thing is that like all of these polls are done via phone calls.
Yeah.
And most people don't have published phone numbers anymore.
Yeah.
So they can't call. Like the only people they can call are people with landlines at this point, and that's like old people.
Yeah.
It's hard. Anyway.
Dan, what I like about polls is when they confirm my biases. That's what I like.
Well, that's the best part. That is the best part about polls. So anyway, Gallup came out with a new poll. It talks about sort of belief in various spiritual entities.
Oh.
Obviously, God is one of those entities. And then angels and heaven and hell and then the devil.
Okay.
And no one's going to be shocked by the numbers on this. 74% of Americans say they believe in God. 14% are not sure. And then a whopping 12% come in at don't believe in God, which is a pretty high number.
They're actually reporting 12% don't believe.
12% self-reported that they don't believe in God.
That's a dramatic improvement.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
Even that, I'm going to get into this. I think even that is very low, and I'll get into why I think that.
Okay.
The really funny thing is that when you get to the devil and to hell, and this is just a quirk of human brains, we're much more likely to believe in nice things than in scary things.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even people who believe it, like 74% of people believe in God, and 59% of people believe in hell, and 58% of people believe in the devil. That is a pretty dramatic difference. Because if you believe in God, presumably you believe in like the book that he comes in. I don't know. And only 69% of people believe in angels, and only 67% of people believe in heaven. Like 74% of people believe in God, but 67% believe in heaven. I don't know. It's weird that those numbers don't line up so much.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's hard to say, right? Like what it all, like, but you had problems with some of the questions, did you say?
No, not in this one. In this
okay.
one, I like this one's pretty straightforward. They literally just say, "Do you believe in blah blah blah?" But what I have a problem with is that because there's such a stigma about non-belief in this country, and about and atheism has such a stank on it, socially speaking, it's problematic to ask that question, even if it's even if people are assured that it is an anonymous poll. They end up being, a lot of people end up being reticent to say that they don't believe in a God.
So you think they're saying, well, I mean, yeah, I'm not, yeah, I believe in God. Sure. You think it's sort of like, oh, well, I mean.
And the way that I confirm that is that back in 2017, and I don't even, this may have slipped past us, but I was doing some research on this. There was a really interesting study that came out of the University of Kentucky's psychology department. And the way that they went about trying to determine how many atheists there are. And by atheist, the way they're defining atheist is sort of the same way that I would define atheist, but it's not definitive. You know, there are lots of different ways that that word is used. But the way that they're using it is to say a person that has no belief in God, does not believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
But they went about it a different way. They didn't ask that question. What they did was they asked a series of questions and said, how many of these questions do you agree with?
Oh.
And they did a control group where they asked all of the same questions except the God question. And then they did a test group where they ask all of the questions and the God question.
Okay.
So it's just one of the questions. You know, these are questions like, I have a dog, and do you have a dog? Or, what, that sort of question.
Okay.
And so you don't have to admit which of the questions you do and don't, you are answering yes to, and you aren't answering yes to. So the person asking you the question doesn't know if the question that you're answering is, I believe in God, or not. And then they compare those numbers against the control numbers, and they can come up with a probability for what the probable number of atheists is among that group. And it's high. It could be as high as 30%.
Wow.
Which I think is fascinating. I think it was like 90% or 99% surety that it's over 11%. And then 80% probability that it's over 20%.
So, I mean, this is getting to the problem of sort of self-identifying as, Catholic, Protestant, Mormon, atheist, right? Because a lot of those Mormons might actually not believe in God.
Well, that's interesting. And that's possible.
Because if the number is possibly as high as 30%, that's almost the number of nuns. And we know that a lot of nuns actually do still hold on to some kind of God belief, right?
Or some of them.
Yeah. Some, that's what I said, not.
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
it is likely that a quarter of Americans do not believe in God.
No matter how they would otherwise identify if asked point blank.
And if they're asked point blank, it's unlikely that a quarter of them will say, I don't believe in God.
Right.
But if you sneak it past them, if you provide them with a way to say it without saying it,
right,
without it, to admit it in a way that they don't have to even say it out loud, it's well over a quarter.
Wow.
I think.
That's very interesting. I hope that's true, but we need, if it is true, we really, really need to work on visibility.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to get these people feeling like they can actually just accept it about themselves, right? Because if they have neighbors and coworkers and just, cousin whoever, right?
Yeah.
Who's just honest and open about their atheism, and they're a good person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it gives them space, to accept it about themselves.
100%.
And that's why, only you know your situation, and only you can decide whether you can, how open you can be about it. But boy, anyone who can be needs to be. So.
Yeah. Use the word atheist.
Yeah.
Happily. Smile with a smile on your face. Don't apologize for it.
Yeah.
Be proud, be happy, be out.
Yeah, totally.
It's it's important. We'll keep beating that drum. Sorry if it sounds repetitive. We got to keep beating the drum.
It's important. All right, Dan. Here's an update. Little story that we covered last year about the Iranian chess player Sarah Kadem, who competed without wearing a hijab at the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Chess Championship in Kazakhstan in December 2022. The fact that she was not wearing a hijab and is from Iran is actually a really big deal because Iran doesn't let you do that. Even if you're not in Iran, you can't be out in the world as an athlete.
Showing everybody your damn hair like a hua.
God. And Iran actually issued an arrest warrant against her, and she did not go home. This is the detail that we did not know at the time. Yeah. She has been living in Spain ever since, and this is pretty quick turnaround. I have to say kudos to the Spanish government. She has been granted, they have acknowledged the exceptional circumstances of her situation, and they have granted her Spanish nationality. So she has a place to be. She does not have to go home to a country that would imprison her for being a non-hijab wearing woman.
Filthy hair shower.
But she, she is considered part of a group of women athletes and people who competed in international events who did not wear hijabs in protest of the death of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman who died last September after being detained by the country's morality police for not wearing a hijab. That incident led to months of protests against the regime, quite large protests. And seems like those protests aren't happening anymore, and things have gone back to how they were.
They finally got all of those women rounded up and carted away to jail. So now things can finally go back to the way they were supposed to be.
Yeah, and everyone else is scared into submission. And so this is wonderful, wonderful news. And I'm really happy that I stumbled upon this update about her. So to know what happened.
Yeah, I hope her Spanish is good.
Well, I mean, you take classes, Dan.
You do. No, it's great. Thank goodness she's safe. That's all and in a nice country. I really like Spain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to close this out. There has been trouble, my friend. Fox News, bastion of right-wing nut jobbery here in these United States.
Yeah.
Not quite as nut jobby as some pretend news outlets, but of the major news outlets, it is our nut jobbiest by far. But there are those on the right who are appalled and horrified to learn that Fox News is in league with the devil.
No. How do they find out?
Well, not the way that we know that they're in league with the devil, but rather some breaking news came out of, I think, The Blaze.
Oh, The Blaze.
Which is one of those other, one of those even nuttier nut job outlets. Which blew the whistle on this thing. Apparently what the deal is that Fox News has a program that I'm actually genuinely shocked to learn about, which is that they are willing to match gifts by any full-time employee to 501c3 nonprofit groups.
Oh, okay.
Up to $1,000. And there are some rules and restrictions on that. which also surprised me, which is to say that Fox won't allow donations to organizations that are political or religious or fraternal in nature.
Okay.
So you can't make Fox match your contribution to your church.
Okay.
Or match your contribution to a political organization, with one caveat, which is that
the Republican Party.
Right. This says Fox will consider. This is apparently from their website, the website that tells their employees about this. So this is an internal website.
Okay.
Fox will consider matching gifts to programs operated by faith-based organizations if those programs, A, are open to all individuals in the community regardless of religious belief, B, serve a secular purpose such as a food pantry or a homeless shelter, and C, do not require individuals to join in religious worship to receive the services that the nonprofit offers. What the hell? That is a great fucking rule. Fox got that entirely right. I'm just going to point that out. Fox News actually got that right. I couldn't have written that any better. I think.
Yeah. Oh. But
clearly,
clearly this is not good enough for some people.
Well, what it has done is left open the door for one particular group that does secular-based stuff that meets all of those requirements, namely the Satanic Temple.
Oh, what? Did somebody donate to the Satanic Temple?
We don't know that, but we know that they can. We know that is one of the ones that they will match. And so will somebody please go and get a job at Fox News and make them give $1,000 to the Satanic Temple? That would be amazing.
So did some religious types figure this? Who figured this out?
Well, whistleblowers from within Fox approached, apparently, the Blaze on the condition of anonymity to point out, and they actually, the way that the Blaze covered this is great because they treated it like they were exposing some horrific thing, and it, you're exposing that Fox News has a charitable association, has a charitable side. That's quite the exclusive you got there. And in fairness, a lot of major corporations have this kind of a program, and it's nice. It's a nice thing to do. But yes, the fact that the Satanic Temple could be the recipient of $1,000 worth of Fox News money became a very, very big scandal for some people.
Yeah, someone needs to follow through with that. Yeah, and actually do it. Did they check with the Satanic Temple to see if they've ever received any Fox News money?
Apparently, that is unlikely to have ever happened.
Oh, okay.
According to Lucian Greaves.
Okay,
but I like that it's a possibility. That tickles me.
Indeed.
Somebody, or you know what? Even better, donate to that Unitarian Universalist somewhere church that got firebombed. Make Fox pay for them to get fixed up. Because I guarantee you, they have some sort of program that fits into those strictures. Anyway, there you go. Foxes of the devil. You and I already knew it, but now the conservatives are finding out.
They just can't win these days.
Yeah.
Poor Fox.
Friends, if you at home would like to comment on Fox News or any of the things that we've talked about this episode, you can write to us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. We'd love to hear your voice. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
Well, Franklin.
Dan?
I don't know what your views on the sin of divorce are. I know that
wildly sinful.
Is it?
Should be banned for the good of society.
Yeah, I mean,
and the children being raised in those in those households.
I'm pretty sure the Bible says something about divorce not being great. But anything the Bible says, some dickhead in the United States is going to take and make much, much worse. So we have just such a dickhead today. This is a Christian preacher named Duncan Urbanek of the Pure Words Baptist Church in Houston.
Okay.
And let's just listen to how far you can take the prohibition on divorce.
So if you've been married for a period of time and you just don't like your spouse, you don't get along together, and you hate each other's guts, or they are unfaithful to you, I'm sorry, but you cannot divorce them. It doesn't matter what the cause is. What God had joined together, let not man put asunder. I don't even care if the person is a reprobate and they hate God and they hate you, and even if they're like an axe murderer, you cannot legally divorce them in the sight of God. Now, here's the thing: if your spouse turns out to be some kind of reprobate axe murderer, then I'm not going to stay in the same house. I'm going to flee and go on the other side of the world. But what you shouldn't do is divorce them, because that would be adultery, right? You would just essentially separate from that person because you're in danger of your life. I mean, if they're abusing your children, get away from that person. But you know what? You wouldn't have the grounds to actually get a divorce. You would just separate from that person, protect yourself and your family. So even in that extreme situation, you still don't have the ability to get a divorce.
Well, there you go. No divorces, please. Please and thank you.
You can't. But what if you're married to a reprobate?
Or an axe murderer? A fucking axe murderer. You're like, well, I can't help it. He's my husband.
God love him, and so do I.
That's some, like, even the Catholics are like, damn, on that one. That is some like hardcore shit right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Christians be cray. I think that's one of the themes of our show.
Oh God.
Well, we had some folks write into us, and I'm going to read those writings.
Excellent.
So that's what we do at this part of the show. Maddie wrote into us. Maddie says, "Hey there, Frank and Dan. It's Maddie from Texas. I'm struggling as an atheist right now. My 3-year-old dog, Artemis, is dying from an aggressive mass in her chest. Oh, man. Surgery isn't an option. The best plan is to keep her happy and comfortable until it's time to go. As an atheist, I don't believe in an afterlife. Life is unfortunately brief for most, and this time on Earth is all you get. But it really fucking sucks. And when you're living the reality of a loved one's time on Earth being the epitome of brief.
Yeah.
When I was still stuck in the evangelical religious cult I grew up in, it was incredibly comforting thinking about how all the pets I would have had on Earth would be with me in heaven, in eternal life. Atheism doesn't have any of these comforts, only the cold comforts of reasoning and science. So it's been understandably rough for me. I'm doing everything I can to enjoy the moments I still have with Artemis. I did a photo shoot with a great photographer yesterday as I'm writing this. I'm going to throw her a going away party next week. Oh, that's so cute. Artemis absolutely loves people, so to have a bunch of people come over specifically for her is definitely a bucket list item of hers. I'm going to hit some of her other bucket list items, and when the time comes, I'm going to let her go.
Yeah.
And probably fall apart a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, you're right. It is tricky. It is tough when there's no afterlife, when there's no promise of more. But the truth is that there never was a real promise of more. like even if you believe in an afterlife, no matter what, the rest of this life is spent without the ones that we have loved and lost.
Yeah.
So our job as humans, whether we're believers or not, is to come to terms, is to process our grief, feel our feelings, and learn to be okay even in the face of loss.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard though. Pets are so hard.
It is.
So hard.
It's desperately hard.
And, and obviously, while it's interesting how much it sticks with you, because obviously, like, those first few days are so painful, missing your pet. And then, you learn to live with it. And, like, it was for a while after my dog Milo passed away. What was that? Like 2 years ago? Year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah.
My iPhone would suggest photos, right? You know how it does that, where it's like, 2 years ago. Oh, here's your furry friends, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, fuck off, Apple! I don't want to think about that right now. But then I was going through some papers the other day, and I found the actual adoption papers from when I got Milo, because I keep stuff like that. And it's actually the little printout that they had on the kennel that he was being kept in. And it said that he was good with other dogs and with cats, which I was like, maybe he was okay with cats. And then it said he does not like little children. And I was like, that was so true. And I probably should have kept that in mind when he was a naughty boy. He was a little chihuahua, but he
could be a cranky little guy.
Yeah, he could. But anyway, yeah. Oh, I really feel for you.
Yeah,
that's a rough time.
Our hearts are with you, and it's not wrong to grieve.
No,
that is something that you will have that you will grieve, and have your fall apart, have your come apart. That's okay.
Well, and I had a little bit of a problem with it. It's hard to give yourself full permission to properly grieve, I think, for your pet, because it feels like, is like, if my reaction was as though I had lost a dear friend, a human friend, right?
Yeah.
And it felt like it's just a dog, right? It's just a dog, and it's not just a dog.
No.
And you have to give yourself that space. And
yeah.
And
I'm sorry that we can't promise you anything grand and eternal.
No,
but I think it makes the time that we have with our people and our pets more precious.
But you get your memories,
Yeah.
And you get to look back on that wonderful little dog. And so,
well, and eventually those pictures that come up become dear instead of painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a process. It's just time.
Yeah.
You just have to go through it.
Yeah.
Only way out is through.
Yep.
All right. TJ from Adelaide in Australia wrote in to say, "Hey, Frank and Dan, I've been an atheist since I was 8. My mother, however, was brought up Anglican and, although never went to church, did believe in God. In the last few years, Mom has said things that lead me to believe that she doesn't believe anymore. The main one being that she envies people with a strong faith, that it must be a comfort to them. She hasn't said anything to my brother, nominally Christian, or sister, full-on happy-clappy Christian, because she doesn't want to rock the boat. She will be 80 this year. I'm not sure what has changed her mind. I don't try to impose my beliefs on the family, but I do say when I think things are ridiculous. I know I've trotted out the how could a loving God allow children to die of horrible diseases, etc., to my mom on many occasions. I've always supposed that when people get closer to death, the whole afterlife thing becomes more attractive. I know it did for my dad when he died of cancer 18 years ago. He got my sister's pastor in to pray with him, even though he'd never been inside a church, to my knowledge. And the pastor did the service for us, but at a secular venue. At the time, my mom told me not to make a fuss. I wasn't going to, but it was weird. She said funerals were for the living, and it would bring comfort to my brother and sister. I also had assumed that it would bring comfort to her, but now I'm not so sure. I think she probably was still slightly religious at that time, but I can't say what's changed for her in the intervening years. All this has been to say that boomers can change their minds and end up non-believers. She has become very slightly less conservative, too. She's against locking up refugees. Australia has an appalling record there. And has come around to supporting gay marriage from being, quote, afraid lesbians would jump her bones when I was in my teens.
What?
Perhaps having a lesbian daughter, me, and her partner having a lesbian daughter and daughters-in-law has mellowed her in her old age. Who knows? Those lesbians always trying to jump your bones. That's the main takeaway of this. Yeah, who knows, man? People change. People's views and opinions and everything. There's no accounting for it. But you know, it might be worth having a conversation about it with her.
Could be interesting. Yeah,
that could be very interesting. Give her some space to sort of express what she does or doesn't believe at this point. You might find some interesting common ground or something. I don't know. Maybe you won't. Anyway, now Steve has written into us. Our friend Steve says, "Hi guys, overall I agree with your advice not to volunteer for religious organizations." You remember we talked about that a little bit ago. But I suggest that there can be exceptions. About a mile from my house in Portland, Oregon is a hospital with a gorgeous atrium where I volunteer once a week as a jazz/pops pianist. My only misgiving is that the Adventist Health owns the damn hospital. Believe me, if a secular hospital were nearby, I'd be there instead. But then I'm playing for the patients, their families and overworked employees, not the owners. It's not unusual for someone to tearfully tell me that a loved one a few floors up is struggling to survive and that my noise provided a much-needed uplift. Let me tell you, it's moving. Also cool is that just about as often someone asks if I play at church, it provides me a great opportunity to say no and explain why not. I've actually been able to rehabilitate a few folks' view of us horrible heathen scum.
Oh, that's nice.
That is nice. And yeah, you know, look, just because a group is religious doesn't mean that it's not okay to volunteer for them or whatever. I still have trouble. I don't want to give money to these organizations, but volunteering is actually a different story. Like if you're like, that situation is very clearly cool. Unless you're loud enough that someone who hates jazz and pops can hear you. And in which case, Steve, you're ruining their sick time. You're just ruining it.
Oh, I doubt that's happening, Dan.
I know. I'm just being mean. Anyway, we have some folks to thank, do we not?
We do indeed, Dan. We have 2 new patrons over on Patreon. We have a new teacher by the name of Julie.
Ooh, Julie. Way to get out there and teach.
And we have,
I love that the Mormon designation of teacher has nothing. Like if a teacher in the Mormon church tried to teach you anything, you would just say, "Shut up, kid," and move on. But you can teach people in our religion. So well done. Now you have magic powers as a teacher. Good job.
And we have a new patriarch by the name of Megagem.
Megagem.
Megagem. So
well done,
thank
Patriarch
you
Megachip.
much, Patriarch. You're a Mormon fortune teller.
Yeah, exactly. Get it. Buy a crystal ball. It'll pay off. It'll pay for itself in no time.
Just as effective and real.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to join these kind folk, please go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the support tab. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. Well, Frank,
Dan,
the music world was rocked this week by the announcement of the death of one Shuhada Sadakat.
well, if that's what had been announced, Dan,
nobody
would
would
know
have. Yeah,
that you were talking about Sinead O'Connor.
Who apparently converted to Islam a few years back. I did not hear about that.
She was a character.
She was a bit of a nutball. It is a little weird to me that like none of the articles that I saw mentioned her by her chosen name. They dead named her, which is a little weird.
Well, I mean, the news wasn't that whatever name you just said passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the news. The news was the person that you knew as Sinead O'Connor.
Yes,
had passed.
Right.
And but you're right. You would think that they would at least acknowledge that she changed her name. That would probably be good. But yeah, anyway. So her passing brought to mind, and a lot of because the one thing that I think she is probably absolutely best remembered for doing was kind of the thing that basically ended her career as an international pop sensation, which was when she went on to Saturday Night Live, which it's in the name, it's live television. She performed, right? She was the musical number. Right. And at the end of the song, she tore up a picture of the Pope. And I remember this happening.
Pope John Paul II?
Yeah. I remember this happening because it caused quite the stir, right?
Yeah, this was in 1992.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's hard to overstate the reaction to this.
Yeah.
It was essentially as though someone had, I don't know, burned a Quran in Sweden or something.
Yeah. It's so
it was a big deal. And you know, she didn't do a great job. One of the things you and I talked about in sort of preparing for the show today was like she didn't do a great job of making it explicit why she was tearing up an image of the Pope.
Yeah. Even if she didn't, there must have been some statement, because it is clear that it was like it was out there, right? As to why she did it, which was she was protesting or trying to draw attention to the issue of priest, sexually abusing minors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was before sort of the Boston Globe did their big expose. This was before people were really acknowledging the scope and of the problem.
Yeah.
But it's clear that the information was out there because she knew about it.
Yeah. Well,
but yes, she was so it literally killed her international pop career.
Yeah.
Now, she later claimed that was great. That was exactly what she wanted. She did not like being a famous person. She just wanted to be a small musician.
Well, I mean, then she got her wish, if that's true. But
she was on a trajectory, and that trajectory came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
When she did this.
Yeah. I mean, it is probably a really almost like a, case study in how not to use your celebrity to draw awareness to an issue.
Well, yeah, in part.
Like, because she probably, if she had like consulted PR people, right, and said, hey, I want this to be my issue.
Yeah.
Right. There might have been, I mean, who knows? They might have been like, you're crazy. You can't make that your issue. But somebody maybe could have helped her like soften the blow a little bit.
Or craft it in a way that like, that it would land.
Yeah.
Rather than the sights being set on her having done something horrific.
Yeah. Because
the sights should have gone, gosh, I wonder what the Pope did that pissed her off. But instead they were like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You can't tear up a picture of a guy.
No.
I like that guy.
Yeah. So much so that the following week, as the history goes, and this was completely forgotten by me, right? I was unaware of this. I saw this pointed out online. It's just the fact that the week after she was on SNL, Joe Pesci was the host.
Yeah.
And his monologue is basically dedicated to responding to what she had done. And he sort of opens it with, showing a picture of, or showing that the picture had been, taped back together. Right.
Which he was so proud of. He's got this shit-eating grin on his face about, I had somebody put it back together.
Yeah.
I'm so cool.
Yeah. Such a defender of the Pope.
First of all, can I just say, when I watched this, it was a terrible monologue. His timing was bad. It was a terrible performance. He doesn't know how to do a comedic monologue at all.
Yeah, but the audience was on his side.
Oh yeah.
Because
so when he said, he said, that I don't know why I'm mad about it. Tim Robbins was the host. That was his problem. But if I had been the host, I would have given her such a smack.
Yeah. And
really?
That's what he said. And the audience, this is just, how times change. The audience was right there with him.
Yeah.
And they were applauding and cheering. And I mean, that was his big line of the monologue. That's the one that got the big reaction, was violence against a woman who was standing up for sexually abused children.
Who tore a picture?
Yeah.
She didn't punch the Pope in the face.
No.
She didn't kick the Pope in the balls. You know what I mean? Like, she desecrated a picture, which apparently was a photograph that her abusive mother had. That she then tore up in front of the world.
Unreal.
So, I mean, I think the one of the points to be made here is that this kind of gesture, whether it be her tearing up a picture of the Pope or burning a Quran or whatever, has a lot of power. But it's probably too much power to marshal into a message that you can control.
Yeah.
If a celebrity can't control it, surely just a rando in Sweden can't control that message.
Yeah.
And the only message that's going to get out, regardless of what your intention is, and regardless, Sinead did a piss poor job of like sort of making it explicit why she was doing it.
Right. There was no context for the action.
Right.
Yeah.
But even if she had said, this is for the children abused by priests or whatever.
Yeah.
The gesture's so sort of nuclear in its power.
So dumb.
That no one's going to hear it.
It's a picture. It's a picture.
It's a fucking photograph or it's a fucking book.
Yeah.
It's like not, but
a picture is by whatever degree bad burning your holy book could possibly be. Tearing in half a picture cannot possibly be as high, right? But in this moment, it was, right?
Yeah.
Like this really, truly, I mean, to use modern parlance, she was canceled, right?
Yeah.
The conservative culture of the day canceled her.
That's very true.
And and
labeled her as anti-Catholic.
Applauded the one who would have, or at least said that he would have, been violent toward her.
Attacked her.
Yeah. And, in today's world, it would have been the exact opposite. Joe Pesci would have been the one canceled, right? And Sinead O'Connor would have been applauded for standing up to, the questionable authority of the Pope.
Except that, only because she's not on she wouldn't then be on the vanguard of that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, sure.
Of that issue.
Yeah.
The first several people who dare to speak out on an issue are almost invariably just burned at the stake. And then, 10 to 20 years later to 30 years later,
right,
people say all the same things and everybody's like, yeah, that's so true. And it's like a non-issue.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, you watch it and it just sort of seems quaint now.
Yeah. Such a, and she's, she was a kid at the time.
Yeah.
She was in her early 20s or whatever.
And people who weren't around at the time, right? You have to understand, she was huge.
Oh yeah.
Sinead O'Connor was she was absolutely at her peak, and she was the number one artist, right? On any of the charts. Her, I think her album was the number one album at the time, or maybe not specifically right at that time, but had been.
We all knew how to pronounce the word Sinead. That's how big she was.
No, she was a big, big, big fucking deal. When that happened, it was, just shockwaves. And little Mormon kid in rural Oklahoma, right? I didn't get any of what was going on, and the filtering down of any kind of motive. This was just an offensive thing to the Pope, right?
Yeah.
And not that really went very far, again, in rural Oklahoma, but I remember it just being holy fuck, what did she just do? So.
Yep. So there you go. Little gestures can have big impacts, and sort of impacts that you can't control. So be very careful with your gestures.
Is that the takeaway?
But yet also, try to defend those who are on the right side of things as they're being slaughtered.
Gesticulate carefully, everyone.
It's so true. It's so true. If you would like to tell us your feelings about Sinead, no longer Sinead, about Shuhada Sadakat, feel free to do so. Write into us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so by going to thankgodimatheist.com/members-only.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their fine music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.